Hey guys, Austin here. I haven't done a video in quite a long time. The HD800 video, the last one I uploaded was like a few weeks. I recorded it about a few weeks ago and I only uploaded it a couple days ago, so that's totally my bad. But what I'm here today to talk to you about is something I've been trying to get for a long time, and I finally have, which is this baby here. The HD800. I recently picked this guy up about 2 weeks ago off of an Amazon sale, and it's really the only headphone I've been listening to in the last 2 weeks. Everything else has been just sitting. I do have like newer headphones that I've gotten since then. There's been a couple like IEMs, but this is the only one that's been having any head time, and it's really that good. To throw it into perspective, I have heard the 800 in the past on my old gear, which is the X-Can V8P amp, and the Music Hall DAC, which was 25.2, I think, possibly. And it really never ever sounded quite that good in my opinion on that setup. It all sounded like really overly bright and thin. But recently I've been having this itch, like I really wanted one. And I didn't know why, and I held off for a long time on getting one. And then tax returns came in, and I had more than enough money. I mean, even after paying off some other things, I had like plenty left. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy these headphones. I don't care. Like, even if it's like a chunk of my tax returns, I don't care. I'm going to get them. So I bought them, overnighted them from Amazon, and that's really, I guess, that's kind of anticlimactic, that story. That's basically how I came into them. But really, while you're watching this is what I think of them, especially compared to like their younger brother here, which is the HD700, which I think is really damn good. These really just stop it. There's just no comparison. The HD700s are very good for the money. These ones, though, they're just so much better in every way. It is just hard to even really, like, to put that into words. Like, you'd have to hear the differences between them. Like, even my T1, which I thought was, like, the best for a long, long time, this is much better. And I can't even believe that. Like, this thing even, like, balanced off of my rock. Was, like, the best I've ever heard the T1, next to, like, the Auditor or the Phonitor Mini down there. This thing just stomps it. This thing, well, I guess while we're on the subject of balancing, because I brought that up already, I did make a, if I can get it off, I did make a balanced cable out of an old, oh, now it's tangled, out of an old Denon D7000 cable I had here from when I recabled one for someone. I was going to make my own fresh, but I decided not to. Figure I saved the better wire for something else, I don't know. But this is a good wire to begin with, it's not like crappy. Super nice. The connectors themselves, you can get a lot of them online, but I got mine from Peter Double Helix Cables. They're about like 50 a pair. They're really nice. These are the extra large ones. But running this thing balanced, there are definitely improvements with balanced. But I guess I've heard so many people saying that they benefit like so greatly from balanced. And I really don't think that's the case. I mean, at least with my stuff. And I'm running my stuff fully balanced. I mean, my V800 DAC is fully balanced. And down to the rock is balanced. And I don't really hear a massive improvement. There may be some, but it's nothing like night and day. Like people have said, like, oh, the bass is there now. It's not like that at all. The bass is just a little tighter. Maybe a little bit more separation in the sound, but not much of anything. Now I went off all tangent there, but these headphones are 300 ohms. with, I forget the exact sensitivity rating, but they're not hard to drive. I know I've heard many stories, people saying like the HD800s are super hard to drive, or they're very picky about the gear. That's just nonsense. A headphone cannot be picky. I mean, it may have certain electrical requirements that have to be met by gear, but, I mean, everything that I've tossed these on now here, they've been fine on. The only thing I don't like them on is the V200, which kind of kills the treble a little bit too much and squashes the Soundstage too much to me. But I've been using these exclusively with the Fonitor Mini for the last 2 weeks, and that is like an amazing pairing to me, especially with the little crossfeed feature on there. That made the imaging of this so much better. It does collapse the Soundstage a little bit with the crossfeed, but it's not terrible. I guess the benefit is that it does sound a little bit more three-dimensional, like a little bit more in front of you now because of that. But the Fonitor Mini just drives these things so well. The only reason I'm pairing it with that is because I want the sound to be super neutral with these. That's the reason I bought them, because they are so dead neutral with the sound. And I wanted to pair them with an amp that was also very neutral. And the Fonitor Mini is like no coloration to it from what I can hear. Even with the auditor, there's no coloration. But speaking of that with the auditor, I did notice one weird thing is that I get more bass out of the 800s, out of the auditor. It might be a little bit with the damping because these are a 9 ohm output. Well, this is like 0.18 ohms, I think, is the output of the Fonitor Mini. But I do get a little bit more bass with the regular auditor, and I don't know why. I haven't been able to figure that out, but I still use them with the Fonitor regardless. Now, I'm going to go straight into it. The main debate with the 800s is the treble. They are a brighter headphone, yes, but they're not like excruciatingly bright. People have compared them to like DT990s, and that is not the case. 990s, I have the 990 right there, and that thing is like the brightest headphone I have, even more than the K701 up there. That thing is just so damn bright. Everything, even like recordings that don't have a lot of treble, have lots of treble with that. This is not the case with the 800. They do have elevated treble at 6 kilohertz peak, but it doesn't honestly bother me a whole bunch. I mean, I've never been one for treble sensitivity, so even like a little bump in the treble isn't bad. I can see if some people have issues with that, it might bother them. To me, it does nothing. But with the treble, it is probably the best treble I've ever heard in a headphone, at least out of any of the ones I own. It is the smoothest treble. It is very articulate. It extends very well. And there's really like no grain to the treble. A lot of like brighter headphones kind of have this edge or graininess to it, kind of like how the HD595s had that. They had like a little bit of aggressiveness to the treble. This doesn't have it. The mid-range is probably the most open sounding I've had. I know in the past I've preached that the T1 has had the most open sounding, but it must have been something with my gear in the past, because I could hear things with the mid-range with this that I cannot on the T1. And that is saying a lot, because these are like one of the best dynamic headphones. Mid-range is super open, super clean. There is a little bit of a recession in there. If I remember correctly, when you look at the graphs, it's like a 10 decibel recession, but I don't hear it, honestly. You want to talk about recession? DT990 has like no mid-range to it. This has plenty. This has a good body to the mid-range, and it is the purest mid-range ever. Super resolving. Vocals are so clean, crisp sounding. Guitars are so crisp. It's hard to describe it. You'd have to hear it. It's like there's nothing there, like only the music. This has all been said before by many audiophiles and other people, but they're like, it's an old saying, like the Sennheiser veil, how it's like taking a blanket off, and that's what I felt like going from like the T1 to this. Now there isn't like any sludginess to like the sound, it's just these are so much more resolving in their mid-range. And the bass, I don't even want to get started on the bass on these things. It's so good compared to the T1s. It has more bass than the T1s. It's a little bit more full-bodied, while the T1s tends to be a bit tighter, but this extends a lot deeper, has way better impact to my ears. Very quick bass. Like, T1 and HD800 have the quickest bass out of all my headphones. At least before I got these. These are just the most fastest. It doesn't have a lot of decay to the bass. Just instantaneous. Like drums. It's a bad to use, but Rings of Saturn. They're like alien core. I've only found them recently, and I was listening to some of their music. I forget the name of the album. I have it here. It has like rapid fire, like kick drums, and the bass on those sounds so clean. And I know it's a bad master, like the sound quality is just like not that good on the album, but just the way the bass sounds, I could tell it's different than the T1. I am going to be trying this on better stuff with like better audio. Recently, I did buy the Sennheiser demo CD for the 800s, and that's coming in the mail. I did pick up, I recently found a sound in the dynamic range database, but the old pressing of like Bark at the Moon has like really high dynamic range to it. And I do have the 2002 remaster, 2001 remaster, which is just compressed to hell. Man, swings in metal, I don't think I've ever heard swings that good in like metal. All my metal I have is really compressed, and there aren't a ton of dynamics. Like some of the Opeth stuff is a little bit more dynamic, some Camelot stuff is more dynamic. Iced Earth, some of that's dynamic, but nothing like with that. That's really got me excited. Whole section on the bass. I'm just enamored with these headphones. These just sound so damn good. Soundstage is the biggest I've heard. Now, I know people said like the 701s have had the biggest soundstage. K501 is bigger than the 701. So if you've never heard the K501, kind of think the 701 soundstage, but a little bit bigger, and it's more cohesive. The 701 is like really wide, but like it doesn't have a lot of depth to it. It's really weird. It just sounds like it's stretched a stereo image. 501 is more expansive, kind of like the 800s in a way. 800, because of the way the drivers are angled, it does really sound like it's coming more at you, as opposed to being shot into your ears from the sides. People always say it, like speaker-like. I know it's taboo, and I brought that up in the 700 video too, I think. It is very speaker-like in the way the sound is. I've been A-Bing it against some of my like better speakers. I have Wharfdale M5s in my game room, and my dad owns Wharfdale Opus 2.1s or 2.2s, I think. And the way the soundstage comes at you is kind of like, it reminds me of these. Or let's just say this reminds me of those, how the sound is at you like that. Imaging is some of the best I've ever heard, if not the best. Imaging, it's hard to say if it's better than the T1. The T1 already had exceptional imaging to it. This one, though, seems a lot more pinpoint, just because the soundstage is bigger. I could hear stuff a little bit better. T1 is more just like shooting in. Soundstage is pretty expansive on this bad boy, from what I can tell. But I briefly touched on this earlier, was with the transparency and the resolving capabilities, and this is just, this thing, I can hear stuff with the 800 that I could not hear with the T1. And that blew me away. Like, I thought the T1 was already like super resolving. This is like night and day with the T1 and a lot of stuff. Something like the old Ozzy Osbourne, like that new CD I got, the mastering on there is very good. And there is parts where Ozzy is singing and there's like an echoing effect going on with the singing where it pans between channels. And with the T1s you can hear it, but it kind of drops off quick. With this one you can hear it very faintly in the background more. There's lots of other stuff you can hear in the background when they're playing the guitar. You can hear like fingers sliding up and down the strings on there, which I couldn't hear with the T1s. And that's really just really blown me away. I know my music preferences probably aren't the best for these, but I'm always looking to get better, so I couldn't help but get the HD800s. As far as like the genres they go with, I think they go with pretty much anything. There's no coloration. These are like super neutral. I heard no coloration in the mid-range treble. Well, maybe like I said, that little spike in the treble, and these might have a little bit fuller bass. Otherwise, it is super neutral. More neutral than the T1. Definitely more neutral than like the 600, which people tote is the most neutral headphone out there. This thing is super dead neutral, which you may like or you may not like. Some people don't like how neutral headphones sound. Like they don't like they lack energy or bass punch, which I found none of that to be an issue. If I could live with the T1 and other like very lean sounding headphones, HD800 is like perfectly fine for me. It doesn't bother me at all, the presentation. In fact, I prefer the leaner presentation because I can hear more of what's going on. A lot of times bass can like envelop the music and obscures finer details. It's not so with this headphone. I really enjoy that. Like I said, I guess it's all I need to cover on the sound quality. I know I briefly touched on amping requirements, and these are very easy to drive. You could drive them off of like a cell phone. At least with my, if it's in here, well I'm using it actually to record my S3. It's able to drive them okay. It's not great. My, where's the FIO X1? I have a FIO X1 here, which drives them really good, but I'm waiting on my SMSL portable amp I got from Massdrop to come in. We're going to try it with that and see how that does. But they're super easy to drive. I'd say just as easy. Well, they're going to be easier to drive than the 700s, but they're still incredibly easy. Like, I could throw them into my Massdrop O2 here, perfectly fine. Like, very similar sonic tone to like the Violectric, or not, the SPL. SPL's still a much better amp, and it does sound better, but it can drive them very well. I wouldn't recommend driving them with like a cell phone or anything. You're going to get all sorts of distortion from any of like the D8 chips on the board. I know I do get a little bit of distortion with the S3. I just attribute that to just noisiness in the system. But you can drive them fairly well. Like I guarantee you, even like a basic Matrix M Stage could drive them fairly decently, at least. I've heard the M Stage; it's pretty powerful. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's all I really got to talk about with these things. I'm just gushing about them, as a lot of people have already online. So there's not much I'm going to add to this. I may do a follow-up video down the road with more things concerning to these, and I know I have 2 more videos planned for certain with these. One is comparing this to the 700, and then comparing this to the T1. Those will be coming up in the coming weeks. I do apologize for not getting back to you sooner, guys. I don't know. I'm busy, or I forget to record stuff because I'm always doing things around the house here. But I'll try to get more stuff out for you. If you have any suggestions, comments, any concerns or anything of the like, just leave it down below in the comments. I'll make sure to read them and get back to you. I'm trying to get better about that. But until next time, guys, you all have a good day. Adios.